Universalist Unitarian Church. I am Bill Gupton. I'm the senior minister here at Heritage. Hi, Zoom. I suspect you greatly outnumber us right now, as we intended, and or not as we intended, but as we expected. There's about a dozen of us here in the sanctuary, brave souls that have come through this beautiful weather. We are thankful for the beauty around us. We are thankful for one another. We are thankful for getting here safely, those of us who are here, and we're thankful that you who did not try to come stayed where you are and are watching us now on Zoom. It was wonderful to see that the black and white video against the round window with the white snow falling against the black trees. Everything I was looking at, I sat in the front row, was black and white. It was really gorgeous. So we are Heritage Universalist Unitarian Church. We've been around since 1827, offering a welcome, an inclusive, loving vision for Cincinnati since almost 200 years ago. And this historic congregation is now located in Anderson Township, and we are reopening, and we're happy to be here. If you're new to us, we have a couple of visitors today in person. I see Bob's already greeted you. Hopefully you signed the guest book. And if you have any questions, talk with Bob Lamb or myself or with Laci about our church, those on Zoom. There's a virtual guest book you can sign there. And information about Heritage is available on our website, huc.net. So check us out and ask any questions you may have. What else? So there's a couple of announcements. As you might imagine, schedules have been a little bit affected today. So the Social Justice Collaborative meeting is going to take place at 2 o'clock on Zoom only. So look on the website, huc.net, for the Zoom sign-in details about the Social Justice Collaborative meeting at 2 o'clock today. Zoom only. And then the Caring Circle, which was supposed to meet right after church today, has been canceled. Caring Circle members are encouraged to check their emails for the rescheduling details on that. As we prepare to worship, I'm going to call Laci Adams, our Director of Lifespan Faith Development, up for the call to worship. But before seating the microphone, I'm just going to say, who they think going to stop this service? Not a few snowflakes.
Before the call to worship, just two other announcements. The in-person band book club was scheduled to meet today. We also won't be doing that. But there is a Zoom discussion, which we regularly have, which is scheduled for the 31st, the evening of the 31st. So, and I want to remind everyone that we are going to have a Mardi Gras party in September on February 18th. The tickets to purchase that are available on the website. If you happen to be here in the service, I made homemade king cake. I will make homemade king cake again next week for our in-person worship, and we will be selling raffle tickets for a homemade king cake that I will make that you can have raffled off at a future date. So don't worry if you're not here today, there will be king cake in your future. Now, let us turn to worship. From the dust of the earth, the Holy One breathes into us life. And through that breath, we are all connected. Shaped in her image, God formed us with a purpose: to create, to serve, to tend, to protect, to love, that life may flourish in all of its forms. May the Spirit of a living God be manifest in us today and in our worship together. Now, as William lights our chalice, Let us begin our time together in song with There Is a Wideness in Your Mercy, number 213.
There's a wideness in your mercy, like the wide the sea. There's a wideness in your mercy. Every your God narrow, I will see sorrow. And bring back your body of sickness in the
Let us join together in affirming our covenant. By this covenant, we affirm the spirit of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to speak knowledge and freedom, to serve humankind in fellowship, to the end that also of great harmony is love. Our time for all ages, you can be seated. Our time for all ages today is actually a wonderful book called Auntie Uncle Drag Queen Hero. We're actually going to see it read by a librarian. So we'll see the video and hear the story that way today.
Auntie Uncle, Drag Queen Hero, written by Ellie Royce. I love my Uncle Leo. He is good at math and he checks my numbers. He works in the city checking other people's numbers too. I love my Auntie Lotta. She sings and dances with me. On weekends, she sings and dances with her drag queen friends. Sometimes Auntie Lotta is Uncle Leo, and sometimes Uncle Leo is Auntie Lotta. It's fun to have an auntie and an uncle who are the same person. One weekend, we went to see Auntie Lotta and her friends sing and dance in a big parade. While we were watching them, something happened. Nobody saw it except Auntie Lotta. She rescued the dog. Then everybody saw it. The mayor wanted to give Auntie Lotta an award. He put an article in the paper and invited us to a special party. Oh dear, said Uncle Leo. Who will accept the award, Leo or Lotta? I want all my friends to come to the ceremony. Leo's friends from work have never met Lotta, and they might be surprised to see her. But Lotta saved the puppy and her friends are so excited for her. She just has to be there. I thought it over. Why can't you both accept the award? I said. I've never been both of me at the same time before, said Uncle Leo. That would call for a super fierce look. I'll help, I said. So we tried different outfits that were a little bit Leo and a lot Lotta, a little bit Lotta and a lot Leo, and a little bit of both. At last, the mix was just right. What do I call you now? I asked. How about Auntie Uncle? Ladies first and all that, said Auntie Uncle. City Hall was full of people. Look, there are Leo's friends from work, I whispered. And there are Lotta's friends. "Oh dear," said Auntie Uncle. "Oh dear." I put my hand into Auntie Uncle's and squeezed it tight. For saving the lives of many innocent bystanders at the risk of their own, we award this medal to Leo Lotta Bigheart, said the mayor. City Hall was very, very quiet and very, very still. "Oh dear," sighed Auntie Uncle's very, very softly. Suddenly, Lotta's friends started to clap. Leo's friends started to cheer. They stood up, clapping and cheering together. Then everyone stood up, clapping and cheering. After the presentation, Leo's friends met Lotta's friends. They were very, very polite. I thought that perhaps they wouldn't like each other until Auntie Uncle showed them the medal for bravery. After that, they clapped and cheered again. They drank tea and ate cake. They talked about math and singing and how much they liked my Auntie Uncle. I love Uncle Leo. He still checks my numbers. And I love Auntie Lotta. She still sings and dances with me. But I think maybe I love my Auntie Uncle best of all. The end.
If you happen to be following along on your order of service, you will see that there are some things which we have cut out because they're not the most useful in our new context. Since there are not children here, we do not need to excuse them to go elsewhere, except for William, who, yeah, he's with us to win it, okay? Gender is a drag. It might seem strange on a service about gender, and a service where we're going to talk about gender and how we explore our own gender and how we discuss how gender affects our community, to start by talking about drag. But really, I think starting with drag reminds us of something about gender. It's that we can play with it. It's that it's not static. It's that gender doesn't have to be set. It's not just about the gender we were born with or assigned at birth, or even the gender that we express today. That gender really is malleable. It can change. And how we express ourselves can do a lot to and about our gender. How we dress ourselves can change the way people see us. How we fix our hair, or the kinds of clothes we wear, or if we wear makeup or not, can change how we experience our own gender and about how people think of us in terms of gender. So we start in thinking about drag to have a little fun, so that we remember that even when we talk about the hard things, the things that seem so essential to our identity, the things that structure our lives, that we can also play with them. That there is something more expansive, that there is a wideness in us, as there is in God, that lets us enter into this conversation more fully. So today, as we do throughout this service, as we explore gender, as we think about our own gender, I want you to be brave. I want you to think about Auntie Lotta, or Uncle Auntie, or Auntie Uncle, depending on how you're feeling, and let that make you brave. Make that so that you might explore in the most expansive place possible. Now, our Sharing Our Abundance today is going to be brought to us by Erin, who is on Zoom. So there are going to be we're trying something today where we're going to bring Erin in by way of Zoom. Our Zoomers should hear Erin perfectly fine. If those of us in the sanctuary don't hear her, that's okay. It's going to be okay.
Okay. I'm going to try talking and we'll see how many people can hear us. Laci, can you hear me?
Erin, hang on just a minute.
Okay.
We're just going to go for audio only.
All right,
Okay.
audio only. Here we go.
Hang on, Erin. This is completely winging it here.
Yeah,
Doing great.
we're being brave. It's
You're
good.
doing great. There's more than one way to make this happen, I'm sure.
Okay, Erin,
Yep.
how about it?
Great to be joining everyone. I hope everyone can hear me on Zoom, and those of you who are brave enough to be in the sanctuary today. I understand we have some visitors with us, so I'll start by saying that at Heritage Universal Church, at HUUC, we dedicate our Sharing Our Abundance to a nonprofit every week that connects with the message today. So today our Sharing Our Abundance offering will support Cincinnati Sisters. This is a group of drag nuns whose full name is Cincinnati Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. And their mission is to spread joy throughout Cincinnati and to reduce stigmatic guilt among members of the LGBTQ community. They became a 501c3 nonprofit organization in 2018, and they've been working ever since then on their mission to spread joy. They do things like hosting story hours, they host variety shows, teen dances, food pantries, and they support other nonprofits that also serve the LGBTQ community. They have what they call a ministry of presence. They entertain people in hospice, they deliver sex education programs, and they mentor Cincinnati LGBTQ youth one-on-one. They're a very small organization, and we love to support small nonprofits. They have 30 members currently, and they do a lot with a small budget. We know that they will put our HUUC donation today to good use. If you're in person, you can donate in the collection plates. And if you're online, we will put the link to donate in the Zoom chat. Today's offering is supporting Cincinnati Sisters.
Thank you, Erin.
Thank you for your generosity. Online donations, of course, are there's a link there on Zoom and other information about that. And throughout the week, upcoming Cincinnati Sisters website, or the link to donate will be up all week on the Heritage website. We come now to a time in our service that we hold dear, that we hold very sacred and special in our hearts. It's called Candles of Community. And this is our opportunity for folks to share the joys and the sorrows of their lives, to catch up after a week apart, and to hold one another in compassion through the ups and downs of our lives. There is an opportunity to email in information ahead of time. We will also have sharing on Zoom, and there will be time for those here in the sanctuary who would like to come forward, take a microphone from Laci, and tell us a joy or a sorrow, can do that as well. So I will begin with a couple of candles that were emailed in this weekend and earlier this week. And now we light one final candle for all the joys and the sorrows that remain in our hearts unspoken this snowy morning. Now, Ellie said something about a beautiful voice during her candle, and we are now about to experience another beautiful voice, our very own Laura Knight.
I'm not a stranger to the dark. I don't worry, they say, 'cause we don't want you broken hearts. I've learned to be ashamed of all my scars. Run away, they say, no one will love you as you are. But I won't let them break me down to trust. I know that there's a place for us. For we are glorious. Sharpest words down, drown them out. I am brave, I am bruised, I am who I'm meant to be. This is me. Look out, 'cause here I come. Marching in on that beat I drum. I'm not scared to be seen. I make no apologies. This is me. Oh, 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 oh. Another round of bullets hits my skin. Whoa, far away, 'cause today I won't let the shame sink in. We are bursting through the barricades and reaching for the sun. We are warriors. I won't let them break me down to dust. I know that there's a place for us. When the sharpest words want to cut me down, I'm gonna send a flood, gonna drown them out. I am brave, I am bruised, I am who I'm meant to be. This is me. Oh, 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 oh. I know that I deserve your love. There's nothing when the sharpest words wanna cut me down. I'm gonna send the flood, gonna drown them out. This is brave, this is bruised, this is who I'm meant to be. This is me.
Thank you, Laura. I'm gonna go off script a tad here. Because something in the lyrics of that song reminded me that I had intended to light a candle about the mass shooting last night in California. And I'm also aware that they are so frequent now that we could light one every week and that we've sort of become inured to it all. So I invite you to take just a moment of silence right now to ponder that and to pray for those who are and have been affected. This poem is by Meg Day and is titled Portrait of My Gender as Inaudible. So think about that a second. Portrait of my gender as inaudible. I knew I was a god when you could not agree on my name. And still, none you spoke could force me to listen closer. Is this the nothing the antelope felt when Adam lit on his own entitling, dubbed family, genus, and species? So many descendants became doctors, delivered babies, bestowed bodies names, as if to say, it is to make it so. Can it be a comfort between us, the fact of my creation? I was made in the image of a thing without an image, and silence, too, is your invention. Who prays for a God except to appear with answers, but never a body, a voice. If I told you, you wouldn't believe me because I was the one to say it. On the first day, there was no sound worth mentioning. If I too am a conductor of air, the only praise I know is in stereo. One pair, an open hand and a closed fist will have to do. I made a photograph of my name. There was a shadow in a field, and I put my shadow in it. You can't hear me, but I'm there.
In 212, we are dancing Sarah's circle.
We are dancing Sarah's circle. We are dancing Sarah's circle. We are circle. Sisters, brothers, love. Here we seek and find God. This we will all we will all do all every round general sister.
Identity is a funny thing, gender especially. It is a thing that can at the same time be everything and absolutely nothing. All of our identities are this way, but I happen to be talking about gender today. I would like to propose a potentially controversial idea. That is that gender is really made up. What it is to be a man or a woman, those are all arbitrarily defined. Someone at some point in time decided that a color had a gender, though I don't know why. And someone decided that parts of our bodies might indicate things about our spirits. And that became, over time, it holds a tremendous amount of power. This is why gender is such a strange beast, right? We all know that gender, your gender, has real world consequences about things like your pay, about your behavior, and about how that behavior affects all sorts of things in the world. We know that our genders can say something about how we feel in the world, how we navigate the world, the places and that we feel safe or not, the places we think we can access or don't. And we know that politically, your gender changes your access to rights in our world. We know all of these things. And those are very real things. All based upon something that might not be so real. I have a 3-year-old, as many of you know, and Em and I try very hard to sort of raise Ben in a gender neutral way, which I realize is sort of there's an irony in that, right? Because Ben's name is not gender neutral. That was an intentional decision. We figured that if Ben was going to be trans, he would eventually change his name. And that's a rite of passage when you transition, picking and claiming and speaking your own name. And so we determined that whoever he would be, if that needed a name change, that would be his later in the world. But we give him lots of possibilities. But all around him, people want to take those possibilities away. They want to look at him and make determinations about who he might be. Ben is a climber everywhere. Just yesterday, I heard noises downstairs. And when I came down the stairs, I'm like, Benny, where are you? And I hear his tiny voice coming from the kitchen saying, I'm not on the counter anymore. I was like, anymore? He was on the counter. He had been on the counter. He had found a way to get into a cabinet and to open the cabinet doors and to find the Halloween bucket that still had Halloween candy. And he said, it's only 2. He meant pieces of candy. And he loves tractors, particularly John Deere tractors. And everyone will say when they see these things in him, oh, boys will be boys. And I'm like, what does that mean? He likes tractors. I fixed a furnace. What does that have to do with anyone's gender? But this is the thing. Gender can be everything, and it can be nothing. And we start that young and frequent and early, and we do this to each other. We help each other understand our genders. And sometimes all of that help and all of that naming is very useful. And sometimes it has really hard consequences. I wanted to talk about gender today because when I came here and when we did programming and when I sat with all of you, I started to notice something, that there are 2 kinds of things that happen around gender here in our community. On one hand, this is a community that values and prizes and makes important space for women's only spaces. And as a woman of a certain age, that is to say in my 40s, in my early 40s, those kinds of spaces when I was a teenager and in my early 20s, they mattered to me, being in women's only spaces. I still am a big believer in women's specific education, despite the fact that I am potentially raising the son, because I know that women perform better in those places, because I know that women, when not questioned about our intelligence and our capacity, will speak up more often. And I know that young girls thrive in spaces where their gender is not in question. And I have been a beneficiary of those spaces, spaces that are just for women. And I know, and I see as I work with young people and youth, that our categories of gender are so much more limited than the world in which they live. I know that when we talk to our teenagers, they don't just see men and women. And our spaces, women's only spaces to them, seem so strange because it assumes that there are only 2 ways to be, in the group or not. But that their experience of gender is so much wider. And this, I think, is what we learn about naming. This is the power of naming. That when I was in my early teens, that there were only a few words for gender. They were limited. And we used the words that were available to us. We used the labels that were in front of us to stick onto ourselves, and they were important. Now, I was a young queer person and I was coming out in that environment. And so like in queer women's community, there were all these other words that tried to get at gender. You might be a woman, but there were 50 ways of being a lesbian. There were all sorts of words about lesbians that said something about your gender, about how masculine or feminine you were. You might like women, but that didn't say everything about your gender. So even then in that way, in those communities at that point in like the late 90s, right, we were already in a place where gender was still really formative, but we already knew that there were limitations for how we had talked about gender. And we were trying for words. We were trying for new words, more ways of describing gender. Now we live in a world where there are more genders than there are maybe people. The number of kinds of pronouns you can use are expansive. And if anyone has spent any time with anyone under 20, particularly anyone under 20 who might be queer in some way, the number of words that young queer folks use to talk about themselves, their sexuality, their gender, are expansive. They're too expansive to even list here. And they are so expansive that words like gender queer or gender expansive or gender diverse are used to try to carry a huge bucket to capture all of them. And so for our young people now, this word woman and this word man, they aren't quite enough. They aren't quite enough to get at the experience in which they live. So what does that mean for us as a community? When we have folks who have been truly and utterly defined and empowered by women's only spaces, and we have folks who do not understand what it is to occupy gender-specific spaces. What is our challenge now? I think it is our challenge now is to think of the wide ocean and to think of our community as a wide ocean. My wife loves the beach. She loves being at the beach. And you know, the one thing that you can count on the beach is the rising, the ebbing and flowing of the tide. And every wave is different. And every moment is different at the beach. It is never static. It's not, I think, surprising on some level that when we talk about feminism, we've talked about waves of feminism as a culture. It's an acknowledgement that the context in which we live is always changing. The water comes in and it comes out. And in any moment, that ocean is different. The scene you stand on is different. So our challenge as a community is to learn how to accept the ebb and the flow of the ocean and to see that all of these names, all of these labels we might use for each other, that they have a space in our community, and that to take the long view, the wide view, instead of thinking as this wave as the only way for us to be. This way, to acknowledge that this wave is not permanent. It is not that this way is the only way. It is not that what comes in at the tide will be the only way the ocean seems. This one moment when the tide comes in is not the only view we have. It is the view you have, and it is gorgeous and beautiful and unique. And in the next wave, a new view will come. And that when we as people and as a community can embrace the fullness, the wideness of the ocean picture, then we have the capacity to start to see all of us in this community, to tend to all of us, to love all of us, and to see ourselves as bigger than just our wave, but to see and love ourselves with the wideness of the ocean. To know that your moment is perfect and beautiful and yours, and another is coming that will speak to and love and care for and cherish someone else. This is not easy. The beach is a beautiful metaphor. We love the beach. We really might love the beach more in this moment. It's easy to say, oh, the beach is beautiful. The ocean is wide. But it is hard, truly hard, to embrace that as a perspective on how we care for each other. Because when you are in the moment of a wave, that wave seems like the only thing. So that expansive view, it's beautiful, and liberating and full of possibility. And it requires our hard work of reaching out to another and of seeing another and being willing to center another's wave, to stand in the wave with them and try just for that moment to see the world as they see it. That kind of love of each other, it's hard, but it is the thing that makes a community of expansive possibility possible. It is when we can do that, acknowledge our own perfect moment, and then be willing to step into someone else's, that we start to exceed the possibility of just ourselves and start to craft communities that are expansive and beautiful and make space for everyone. It's a hard thing to do, but it is possible. And when we do it, the view is so much more powerful. All right, so I'm going to change a few things up in honor of where we are in the service. And we are not going to do the embodied meditation, that we are not going to do the learning to ride our own waves as we have here, because I want to give us some time to sort of move and sing and experience and contemplate what we've heard in other ways. Because how we learn isn't just through our minds. It is sometimes through our bodies, and it is sometimes through our singing. So I want to make time for that. But I do want to leave you with this, a charge maybe, a thing for you to think about, a thing for you to take into your week. And then if you have the opportunity, talk to someone else here when we do it. So here is what I want you to think about. Think about the ways in which you express gender. Look in your closet this week. See what kinds of clothes you pick. See what they might say about your gender expression. And think about times in your life where how you express your gender has changed the way people see you. Gender expression, how we express and live out our gender, those are often very tangible things we can think about. And I think all of us can most probably think about moments where people have commented on our hair and what that might say about our gender, or whether or not you wear pants or dresses say about our gender. There are lots of inanimate things around us that we use to express our gender and that people use to read our gender too. So I want you to go on a scavenger hunt to look at those inanimate things that you and we use to express our own genders. I would love to hear your reflections on that. And I would love for you to share those in our community the next time we are gathered. Now, we're going to take a moment for embodied meditation, and we are going to sing together my child and his tiny human's best friend's favorite song these days. The hips on the drag queen go swish, swish, swish. It is set to The Wheels on the Bus. You will see the lyrics here. As we sing them, I encourage you to stand up and swish and twirl and stomp and do all the things that these beautiful drag queens do all around the town.
The hips on the drag queen go swish, 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 swish. The hips on the drag queen go swish, 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 all through the town. The hair on the drag queen goes up, 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 up. The hair on the drag queen goes up, 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 all through the town. The shoes on the drag queen go stomp, 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 stomp. The shoes on the drag queen go stomp, 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 all through the town. The jewels of the drag queen go bling, 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 bling. The jewels of the drag queen go bling, 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 all through the town. Shoulders and drag queen. Shimmy, 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 shimmy. The shoulders and drag queen go shimmy, shimmy, shimmy. All through the town. The cheeks of the drag queen go blush, 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 blush. The cheeks of the drag queen go blush, blush, blush. All through the town. The fingers of the drag queen go snap, 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 snap. The fingers of the drag queen go snap, snap, snap. All through the town. The mouth of the drag queen go blah, 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 blah. The mouth of the drag queen goes blah, blah, blah. The dance of the drag queen goes twirl, 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 twirl. The dance of the drag queen goes twirl, 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 all through town.
Right. Ben's bestie loves this, and I needed to use the book for something, not for this, for something else. And I couldn't find Ben's version, so we had to sneak it out of the bestie's house. Like the bestie's mom put it in the mailbox after bed, and I had to use it and then subvert it, put it back into the house so she could not tell that it was gone. All right, so I hate to do this to you all. I'm going to change something just a bit too here. I'm going to go ahead and do the benediction, and then we're going to sing, just so there's not singing talk, but we have singing talk sing, okay? We would normally stand together and hold hands, but I'm going to, so that we can all be in the same way and place with each other. We're not going to do that just yet today, but we are going to still say it responsively. So I will give the line, you will repeat it back. For those of you who are in Zoom, please respond as well. And then we will sing after the benediction. Then we will sing, How Could Anyone? May the spirit of life that each of us possesses flow from one to another.
Flow from one to the
May
other.
it stay with us
May it stay with us
and bring us peace and harmony
and bring us peace and harmony
until we meet again.
until we meet again.
Now, how could anyone? 1053.
We sing this,
Yeah.
women writing all the time.
How could anyone ever do anything that's so beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you?
It doesn't. It's set up for the mic.
How deeply you're connected to my soul. How could anyone tell you? How could anyone
You were last and whole. How could anyone fail to notice that you love me?
you're connected to my soul?
Thank you, everyone, for being here in person or in Zoom. If you are on Zoom, you are happily home and safe. For those of you who are here in the sanctuary, please be very slow and safe as you make your way home. Do not go fast. Wisdom for the ages. Yes.
It only goes fast.
Yes. So be safe. And everyone who was with us today on Zoom, thank you for joining us in that way. Thank you.